All right, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. This is Brother Wariala, and this is my channel, Rise Up Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh, who the world will call God, and I would like to do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world will call Jesus Christ, but whose name is Yahweh Shai in the Paleo Hebrew. So just as a part two, as you can see by the title, this is a part two of debunking the idea that Cornelius is a Gentile or a non-Israelite. And this will just be a quick video going into certain misconceptions about that. So let's get into it. So we can go back to the verse or the chapter in question, and we can go to the top of the chapter where it says this. It says, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. So what do we see? We see that Cornelius was a man that lived in Caesarea. Now, if you know anything about Caesarea, Caesarea is a place located in the northern kingdom of Israel, right? Let me see. One second. Okay, Caesarea. All right, this is Caesarea, a port in Mediterranean coast and the principal cities of Rome and Palestine. Now, I mean, I don't know if it's going to tell you where exactly it is. Okay, let me see. You know, it's not going to say it. Bear with me. But the point is that, and if you do your research, Caesarea is literally a place in Israel that is in northern kingdom territory, right? Specifically along the coast, because if you know anything about the Centurion band or the Italian band, they operated in an area, especially in Israel, that was along the coast. That was along the coast of Israel, right? The Mediterranean coast of Israel, and that's where he lived. So he lived in Northern Kingdom territory, one. But that's that conversation for a little bit later as we continue. The point in question is the fact that he's called a centurion of the Italian band. So it's saying that he comes from the Italian band. So many people look at it as saying, oh, he's Italian, meaning he is a white man, or he's a non-Israelite because he's Italian, or because he, that would consider him a Roman, right? And many people miss a few simple things about this, about that one when they make that claim. First is that Paul, who we understand to be as an Israelite, of course, from the tribe of Benjamin, Paul actually is not also, from another city that isn't in Israel, or is represented as being from another place outside of being in Israel. Does that make him then someone of another nation? And it's going to say it right here. This is Acts chapter 22, and we can start at verse 3. And it says this: I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God, as ye all are this day. So what do we see? We see that Paul is from Tarsus, which is a city in Cilicia. So we see that Paul isn't, he's from another country. He's from another land. Does that make him a non-Israelite? As we continue to go down in verse 25, what does it tell us about Paul? It tells us that Paul is a Roman. Acts 22 and 25, and it says, and as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? So we see that Paul is using the fact that he has Roman citizenship to his advantage, showing you that Paul is indeed a Roman. Does that now mean that he's a Does that now mean he's a Roman by nationality or by ethnicity? No. He was just born in a Roman province and was given Roman citizenship because of where he was born. But that doesn't make him any less of an Israelite, right? So let's keep reading. It says, when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, "Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman." Then the chief captain came and said unto him, "Tell me, art thou a Roman?" He said, "Yeah." So Paul was a Roman, but he was also a Benjamite of the tribe of Benjamin. I don't have to grab that. That's in Romans chapter 11 and verse 1 on down. But nonetheless, we see that Paul is an Israelite. He's a man that is a Jew, but he's also a Roman as well. So Cornelius, which I've already expressed to you, which is a man that is from Caesarea, is also a man that is that is of the Italian band. My point being that just because he's of the Italian band, it doesn't make him any less of an Israelite or any more of a non-Israelite. That doesn't qualify nor disqualify him from being an Israelite, right? So just to go to that one point, but also if you go a few chapters before, in Acts chapter 18 and verse 1, we see Aquila and Priscilla, right? And look what it says. After these things, Paul, verse 1 from top, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. So what do we see? Not only was Paul a Jew that's a Roman, but there is actually a large population of Jews that dwelt in Rome. They got kicked out of Rome. And this is 8 chapters after Cornelius is even mentioned. You see what I'm saying? So we see that when someone goes to qualify that Cornelius is a non-ethnic Israelite, we see that folds under pressure, because we see that he, just because he's a Roman, or just because he is a centurion or of the Italian band, does not make him less of an Israelite. It doesn't take anything from him, right? In no way, shape, or form. Let me see. I want to grab something else. Okay, couldn't find it. All right, so back to the point, right? So we see, as we continue reading, we see verses that talk about Peter's encounter with Cornelius, and I want to start off with the vision that Peter has, right? Because that's a major part in this, and we can start at Salakia. Okay. All right, there we go. Verse 14, it says this. Oh, I'm on 18. Salakia. Acts 10 and verse 14. There we go. And it says this, but we'll start a little earlier. Start at verse 10. And he became very hungry. This is Peter after he fasted. He fell into a trance. And it says, and he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending up unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Meaning Peter has never eaten anything that was of unclean, that was defiled. Meaning he's never eaten any unclean meats in his lifetime, right? And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common, right? So again, Peter's having a vision about clean and unclean animals being brought to him to eat. And what does Peter say? I can't eat this because I've never eaten anything that is common or unclean, right? Verse 16 says, This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So what do we see? We see that Peter has a dream about unclean animals and the Lord telling him to eat these unclean animals. Peter denies it 3 times. And then the Lord tells him, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common, right? And Peter didn't understand what this meant. It's a very important part, because many Christians like to go to this verse and say, see, the Most High said you can eat unclean, what God hath cleansed, call not thou common, right? They use that to say that you can eat defiled foods that are unclean. Like you can eat pig, you can eat shrimp, crab, lobster, you can eat camel, you can eat gator, you can eat mussels, all different types of crustaceans. You can eat those things. You can eat catfish. That's not what this context means. And if it meant that, then that means then Peter should have understood that perfectly. But he didn't get his understanding in this verse. He got it later on, right? So as we continue, we jump down to we can jump to 25, right? And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. And he said unto them, verse 27, and as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. Right, so this is kind of building up the context to what's about to happen. All right, and we're going to jump to we're going to continue to read to verse 28. And it says, And he said unto them, Ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or to come unto one of another nation. Right, so let's understand this real quick. Does it actually mean, is that actually what it's saying? Is it actually unlawful? Is it against the laws to keep company unto one of another nation? Because if that were the case, then Ruth was one of another nation. Uriah the Hittite fought in King David's army, and that wasn't an Israelite. You see what I'm saying? We see all over. We see all over the scriptures that there were non-Israelites that were amongst Israel. There's laws about how to deal with people from that are non-Israelites that are in your land. When an Israelite, when an Israelite, let's say, finds an animal that died of itself, an Israelite can't kill that, can't eat that, but he gives it to a non-Israelite, showing you that there are laws for non-Israelites in the land. So it's never been an unlawful thing for non-Israelites to be a part of Israel, right? But we do see in the scriptures that outside of the 7 nations, we do see that there are 7 nations that can't be a part of Israel, right? But outside of that, we see that the Israelites are able to dwell amongst other nations, or dwell with other nations amongst them, right? So again, it's not a sin. So that wouldn't be. So it goes to show that there's more context to this, right? So again, he says, Ye know how that is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. Now, first, I want to grab something real quick. Where's the blue letter? You know, I don't. Here we go. All praise the Most High. Grab this blue letter real quick. Right? You know how it is unlawful for a man that is a Jew, right, to keep company or to come unto one of another nation. Let's go to the word another nation, right? Alophilos, right? Alophilos. Salaki.
Strong's G 246, alophilos. Alophilos.
So we see that this is a word, alophilos, which simply just means another nation, right? Which, when you put it together, just means foreign, one of another nation, right? You have alos, right? Alos,
Strong's
which means
G
another.
243, alos. Alos.
Yep, alos, which just means another, some, one, right? Others, right? But then you have phule. Slakia. Bear with me. Bear with me. Phule.
Strong's G 5443, phule. Phule.
Okay. So now we have phule, right? And here's what it says about phule. This is what it says. This is the word for nation. Alo, which means another nation. Phule, which other nation. Alophilos, right? And here's what we have: a tribe, right? In the New Testament, all the persons descending from one of the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob. So what do we see? We see that this, and in the context of the New Testament, we see that the word that he uses to describe Cornelius is that he is of the persons that descend from one of the 12 sons of the patriarch David. I mean, they say patriarch Jacob, right? So we see that even when he says that, even when he's talking to Cornelius, he's identifying him as an Israelite. So one may be asking, well, when has it ever been unlawful to deal with another Israelite? And that's a beautiful question to ask, if that would be your question. Because we see in the scriptures that there's not a specific law in the Mosaic law that says it. But for something to be unlawful, it just means not advantageous to do, right? Because it's never been an unlawful thing, right? And if you even look earlier in the chapter, it says that Cornelius was one that was had a good rapport among the Jews, had a good was spoken of high esteem among the Jews, right? Let me see. A devout man, one that feared God in his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. Okay, let me see. 9th hour. Salakia, then maybe not. Let me see. Bear with me, Salakia. Regardless of the fact, we see that he's nigh unto Israel and he gives much alms and he prays to God always. So we see that he dwells amidst Israel already, and he's nigh unto Israel, right? So for us to come to the conclusion that it's unlawful to do that, that's not the case. Now back to my initial point. In order for something to be unlawful, it doesn't mean that it goes against the Mosaic law, because for instance, we have in John chapter 10, we see that Christ tells the Pharisees that something was written in their law, right? John chapter 10 and verse 34. And it says, Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? He's quoting Psalms 82 right here. Is Psalms 82 the law? No, it's not the law. It's the collection of books that are a part of our heritage, but it's not the Mosaic law, right? Moses didn't write Psalm 82, right? So that wouldn't be a law. But it's because it's a part of the records of Israel, it's been understood. It can be understood that it's a part of the law. You know what I'm saying? But not the Mosaic law. And for something to be unlawful, it's just meaning, again, not advantageous, unrecommended. You know, because there's only been 7 nations that's actually been looked at as unlawful for them to engage with Israel, right? But as we continue, I wanted to grab a few examples of this, right? Matter of fact, I'll grab. I wanted to grab, and we can go back to John. You can go to John chapter 4, another prime example, right? We'll start at John chapter 4 and verse 12. 1 second. Okay, verse 12, right? John 4 and 12. Actually, I want to jump down to verse 7. And it says, there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water, and Jesus said unto her, give me to drink, for his disciples were gone away into the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, asketh drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans, right? So understand this. The Jews didn't have any dealings with the Samaritans, meaning they didn't have any dealings with the people of Samaria. Do you know what Samaria is? Samaria is the capital of the northern kingdom, which was split away from Israel, right? So my point being that it's just like it wasn't recommended for a Jew to come nigh unto Cornelius. It's not recommended for a Jew to keep company or to deal with a Samaritan, right? Meaning that they don't have any dealings with each other. And Samaria, like I just said, is the capital of the northern kingdom. And I'll grab it right here in Isaiah chapter 7 and verse 9, right? And it says this, and the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If ye will not believe, then surely you shall not be established. So if you know anything about Samaria, this was established by King Omri of the northern kingdom. And that became like the Mecca, the main city or the capital of the northern kingdom. So we see that that's definitely seen in the text. So I'll get back to John chapter 4. And we see a woman that's from here, right? And again, where does the law say that they don't have any dealings with each other? They don't have any dealings with each other due to what the relationship that the northern side of the kingdom have had through the constant idolatry that the northern kingdoms had together, against each other. Right, and you read a lot about that in the Kings, in the book of Kings and in the Chronicles. But again, she said, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans, right? I'm going to jump down to get to the point to show that this woman is an Israelite, because look what she says. This is John 4 and 12, and it says, art thou greater than our father Jacob? Meaning, are you better than our father Jacob? All right? Which gave us of the well and drank thereof himself and his children, his cattle. Meaning she identifies her father as being Jacob, meaning as being Israel. Just like Peter identified Cornelius as coming from Jacob or coming from Israel. Right? So we see that this can happen and these things happen, but because there was a division between both the northern and the southern kingdom, and really anyone that was circumcised and those that were uncircumcised, there was a great gulf fixed, and they weren't nigh unto each other. But in the Old Testament, we see that the northern kingdom went off completely, and were separated from the Lord, right? So we have this in Hosea chapter 4, and we can start at verse 15. It says, "Though thou, Israel, play the harlot, yet let not Judah offend. And come not ye unto Gilgal, neither go ye up to Bethaven, nor swear, the Lord liveth. For Israel slideth back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in a large place. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone." So the Lord tells us to leave Ephraim alone. Let Ephraim go. Leave him alone. Why? Because they're joined unto idols. So when does it become unlawful for a man as a Jew to not keep company, or to keep company of one of another nation? When the Lord tells you, hey, look, these people are in sin, don't stay away from them, right? So throughout time, we became distant from our brethren of the northern kingdom, right? So I want to grab another verse in Ezekiel chapter 11. Actually, no, I'm gonna jump to Ezra real quick. Give me a second. I'm gonna jump to Ezra. Bear with me. Ezra chapter 10 and start at verse 7. It says, "And they made a proclamation throughout Judah and Jerusalem unto all the children of captivity, that they should gather themselves together unto Jerusalem, and that whosoever would not come within 3 days, according to the counsel of the princes and the elders, and all his substance should be forfeited, and himself separated from the congregation of those that had been carried away." So look, even in this case, we see someone being cut off, right? Now this may not be a specific cut off, like if you're circumcised, if you're not circumcised, you become cut off. But we do see someone being cut off in the scriptures. So just like this, it says that when during the time of Ezra, when they came to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple, we see that there was a proclamation saying that if any man throughout Judah or Jerusalem come not up to build, that they would forfeit all of their substance and all their all the things that they had owned. They would forfeit it pretty much, and they would be separated from the congregation of Israel, right? And that's something that we see constantly throughout the scriptures. If you're not circumcised, you become cut off from your people, right? If you commit certain sins, you are cut off from your people, right? So these are things that we've seen constantly happen in Israel. So it's a lot of cases, it's being killed, but in many cases, it's just being alienated. And a lot of Israelites that were heavy into sin were alienated. Like what do we see in the scriptures when someone when someone goes off and becomes a complete Gentile? And they become uncircumcised in heart and in the flesh. How did they just come back? That's why it was very important for Christ to come and to die for the nation of people of our people, of the nation of Israel, right? And that's what Caiaphas, that's the point that he made in John chapter 11. And we'll start at verse 47. It says, "Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation." Right. So the chief priests and the Pharisees, they were afraid that everybody would believe on Christ and that the Romans would come and take their place in the nation. Why is that? Because the Romans didn't want any king or any Caesar, any king outside of Caesar, right? And that conflicted with the Roman government. Verse 49, it says, and one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. So it was important that Christ died, specifically for Israel, because him dying would help that our whole nation perish not, meaning we don't become consumed in our sins. Right? Verse 51, it says, and this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. So we see that the purpose of Christ dying was to save Israel, not only the Jews, right, but also those that were scattered abroad. And that speaks more towards the circumcision and those that were of the circumcision, right? So when we go to Acts chapter 10, and we see that one of another nation being gathered back, we see that it's talking about that relationship between the circumcision and uncircumcision being brought back together, right? And I wanted to grab one more verse in Ezekiel chapter 11, and we'll start at verse 15. And it says this, Son of man, thy brethren, even thy brethren, the men of thy kindred, and all the house of Israel, holy are they unto whom the inhabitants of Jerusalem have said, get ye far from the Lord, unto us is this land given in possession. So what do we see? We see the Lord saying, and I'm going to try and grab this in another version, bear with me. But what is the Lord saying? He's saying that pretty much the northern kingdom are being cast away by the southern kingdom, and the southern kingdom is telling them to get far away from the Lord because the Lord gave this land to us for a possession, right? I'm gonna grab it right here. This is Ezekiel 11. It says this, God's promise to the exiles. It says, the Lord spoke to me, mortal man, he said, the people who live in Jerusalem are talking about you and those of your nation who are in exile. They say, the exiles are too far away to worship the Lord. He has given us possession of the land. Would I word it like that? No, but it's fine, right? But the point is that, what is he saying? Because they tell you, get you far from the Lord, unto us is this land given in possession, right? So the whole house of Israel, holy are they unto whom the inhabitants of Jerusalem have said, get ye far from the Lord, unto us is this land given in possession. Meaning the Jews that dwelt in the land were telling the Israel that was scattered off into the other nations, stay away from us. God gave the land to us, right? This is for us. So that's why we see how important it is for those that are the Jews to not keep company of one that is of another nation, specifically those that are of our nation but have been mingled into idolatry, may have been uncircumcised. Their parents may have been uncircumcised, and they may want to come back to the commonwealth of Israel. That's what this is more so speaking of, right? And when you go to verse 16, it says, therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet I will be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, I will even gather you from the people, and assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. So we see that the Most High is he's speaking of a time where he's ordaining that all Israel be gathered back to the Lord, right? And that can't happen unless all Israel gets scattered away. So unless Jerusalem gets destroyed and the Jews get scattered into all nations, that doesn't, unless that happens, Israel can't be brought together, can't be brought back together. So it makes sense when Paul says that a great what is the word? A great falling away must happen, because he's speaking of the southern kingdom falling away and being scattered into all nations, and that has to happen so that all Israel can be saved. And this is very similar to the point that he's making in Romans 11. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to take it there. But back to Acts chapter 11, and I'm probably going to end this soon, in a few minutes. I don't like whenever videos get too lengthy. So this is Acts chapter 10. Back to verse 28. He said unto them, ye know how that is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So he gets the vision. He understands that this is not talking about food, but this is talking about men. So what did the Lord tell Peter? That he should not call any man common or unclean. Right? And that goes back to the point. What the Lord hath cleansed, that call not thou common. Because what is that vision about? It's about the Most High God cleansing men that were not considered cleansed. Right? And Cornelius, he's the example of one that was not considered clean. Now the question I would ask you is, who has ever been prophesied as being clean according to the scriptures? Because there's only ever been one group of people that's only ever been prophesied to have been clean or to be cleaned by the Lord, right? And I want to grab this real quick, and this is just one verse that just kind of came to my mind. This is Psalms 119:9. It says, wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. Right? With my whole heart have I sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Right? So we see that in order for a man to be cleaned, how is a man clean? By being given the law, by taking heed to the law and the commandments of the Most High. Right? But let's look at the Bible, the verses that talk about men being clean. And we can go to Joel chapter 3 and verse 20 and 21. Man, I could really go earlier, but I'll just keep the context. It says, but Judah shall dwell forever, in Jerusalem from generation to generation. This hasn't happened yet, because Judah has been destroyed, and Jerusalem has been destroyed, right? For I will cleanse their blood. Whose blood? Judah's blood, and Jerusalem, which is a representation of all Israel. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. So who's prophesied to be cleansed by the Lord? Israel, Zion, Jerusalem, and Judah. So Israel's been prophesied to be cleansed by the Lord, right? This isn't talking about the other nations. Nothing's talking about how the other nations are going to be cleansed by the Lord. So this verse is chiefly talking about Israel. Let's keep going. This is Ezekiel 37 and verse 23, and it says this. Oh man, I could I might have to go a little earlier. We'll go a little earlier. Verse 21. And it says, and say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. Right? Same thing we talked about earlier. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two kings. See how it parallels? No more two kingdoms, because at one point in time, the northern kingdom represented the uncircumcision. Right? Now, the uncircumcision is not limited to the northern kingdom, but the northern kingdom are a symbol or a sign of the uncircumcision, which would be all Israel that were scattered abroad. Right? And it says this, and they shall be no more two kingdoms, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms. They shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols. Meaning idols wouldn't be what defiles them, nor with their detestable things, nor with any transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherewith they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. So what do we see? That Israel is going to be clean from their idolatry, right? That's what they're going to be cleaned from idolatry, from being defiled by the other nations, right? That's the point of that. Let's jump to 28. It says this, and the heathen. Here's this point is actually a really big cut, because it makes a just opposition of Israelites in their lot and the heathen in their lot. And it says this, and the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So when the temple is established, the heathen are going to know that the Lord is in the midst of Israel. So not only is he in the midst of them, but he sanctifies Israel, meaning he separates them. To sanctify means to set apart, means to cut apart, right? To cut asunder, right? And I'll read this in the GNT, and it says, Ezekiel 37:28, when I place my temple there to be among them forever, then the nations will know that I, the Lord, have chosen Israel to be my own people. Meaning he didn't choose other nations. So during the time that he cleanses Israel, when he cleanses them, when he purifies them, it's going to be a time where he separates them from the other nations. So how then is someone being cleansed, right? Call not thou common or unclean. How is it what the Lord hath cleansed, call not thou common? How is something being cleansed without it being separated, right? So when the Lord separates Israel and sanctifies them, around that time is when he cleanses them, right? So that's pretty much it for this video. Lord willing, this edifying video through the Spirit. I like to give all honor and glory to the Most High God Yahweh. Bashim Mashakum Malak Shai. I like to bid everybody a strong shalom, and Lord willing, this is edifying. Kwame Asherallah, shalom.